Schwartz.
How are you tonight?
I am fired up and ready to go, my friend.
All right, fantastic.
You know what? We must have some kind of digital ID connection problem because in the Skype the picture of you is some kind of monkey in there. Did I got the right picture of you?
Yeah, that's me.
You're not the monkey, but man.
No, that's me and my evil monkey.
Oh, I tell you what, man. Every once in a while, I got my in my Facebook, man. Somebody's got like a monkey video in there, and it could be a monkey pet a dog or something. But wherever there's a monkey, I don't know, man. It's like they're going to gnaw you. They're going to turn on you, man. So so you get the friendly monkey?
No, he was very mean.
As long as you don't play with your monkey, then we'll be
That's
all right. All right. Well, Tim, welcome back to the program. Always good to have a Hoosier or somebody in a Hoosier state back on the program. You're in Jasper, Indiana. That's southern Indiana, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm about 50 miles north of Evansville.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you go, I noticed that as the state of Indiana goes, if you go north towards Lake Michigan, it's a crime-infested hellhole, and if you go south, well, am I right?
No, continue your thought there. Let's see. I want to hear where you're going with this.
Oh. Okay. Well, you never know. That's the thing. I see you're going to play close to the vest to find out what the heck the Cowboy's going to say. No,
that's right.
But, wise man. But, and then you go to the middle of it, and then you got India no place, and you got, it's flatter than a pancake in Indianapolis. There's really nothing there. There's no trees anywhere. Then you start heading south. You get a little hilly. We don't have mountains. We got some hills in the Brown County area, and then you get to the bastion of liberalism of Bloomington, Indiana. And I'm not disparaging liberals. I'm just saying it's a fact. I mean, it's like a bastion of them down there, IU and everything. But then you start heading south, and then you start heading to the river. But it seems like between Bloomington and the river, there is a more spiritual type of a seeking type of mentality down in those parts. I've noticed as I've been down there, and dream catchers are sold and various things like that. So do you feel like you are in an area, and you don't have to agree with me, but are you in any kind of area that is more sort of have a positive spiritual climate, or is it just dead as a doornail, like say Indianapolis when it comes to spirituality?
Well, we've lived down here in Jasper since about 2002, and it's in this area. It's a very predominantly Catholic area, German Catholics, because a lot of the people who moved to this area originally came from Germany. And one of the reasons that they came here was because this area looked a lot like some of the places there in Germany. So they felt at home here. So, it's probably more a religious down here than it would be, say, up in central Indiana. But, I grew up in Elwood, Indiana, which is north of Indianapolis. Yeah. And I mean, it was very heavily, Methodist and Baptist and, and everything like that.
Spiritually dead, in other words.
It's, I would say that, most of the Midwest is, pretty spiritual, at least when it comes to, man-made religions.
Hey, I got to tell you this one, though. You know why Baptists are going to get to heaven first?
Why is that?
Well, the Bible says the dead in Christ shall rise first. I need a drum roll. I need a little ping. No, I'm just saying.
Look. My wife would agree with that. She when she was a kid, I mean, her parents took her to a Baptist school and our Baptist, church on Sundays, and her Sunday school teacher, I mean, these are like 6-year-old children, told them that they would all go to hell if they weren't baptized by the time they were like 4 or something like that, and that just put her off on the Baptist, from that day on.
Yeah. Well, people may not know where we're going with this opening, but it definitely has a purpose. I'm setting a foundation, and one of those is the idea that there are localities, it seems, that some of my previous guests described as thin places. That is a place that is close between two dimensions or two worlds, or two atmospheres for whatever. The atmosphere is different. Some are heavy. Now, and I can disparage Indianapolis because that whole area is like a giant succubus. It doesn't allow for, say, there's a spiritual like lock on it. It's not. There's nothing there. And so, but if you move around the country, there are places, and I think everybody that's watching or listening to the program can say they were at a place and they felt something, whether, maybe they felt pure evil for that matter. I mean, that'd be a negative, a bad, thin place, to some kind of world. But there are others that feel like there's a sort of a misty type feel to it, or a electric type feel. And so there are specific localities that engendered themselves toward getting close to another dimension, or seeing things for that matter. When you talk about seeing maybe you're there somewhere in a place like that, and you see a shadow person, something out of the corner of your eye moves, or you get the hair on the back of your neck raises, and you think, wow, well, or maybe even that could go down to a person. So it seems that, and I say that because looking at the bio that we have in our website on you, it says you've investigated paranormal phenomena and other unusual mysteries, and I guess you could say paranormal, but for some that scares the living daylights out of people. But paranormal just means it's out of the ordinary. What is your description? How would you word your paranormal research?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the paranormal, the way I look at it, that's just stuff that science hasn't discovered yet. 500 years ago, if you would give somebody, say, like a cell phone, well, that would be paranormal to them.
Okay, point taken.
So, I mean, the stuff that we think about now, in the realm of paranormal, whether it be ghosts or UFOs or what have you, I think that's just stuff that science hasn't discovered yet. I mean, maybe 500 years from now, we'll look back at at these time and laugh at how ignorant and primitive we were when we looked at different things. So I mean, I don't think that people should have a fear of the paranormal. And let me hedge a little bit on that. There are some people who, if they get too close to, as you describe them, kind of like that thinning area, so to speak, they tend to be overly influenced by it. And if you have somebody who may be already, kind of teetering back and forth between, good and evil, or however you want to look at it, sometimes they get a little close to these areas, and it may tip them over, one way or the other. John Keel and Jacques Vallée, they describe these kinds of areas as like window areas, and you'll find them, all over the planet. Just kind of like almost like doorways between this world and the next, or several next. The Skinwalker Ranch out in Utah, I think that's a good example of a location where strange things seem to happen continuously. There's a few places here in Indiana that are like that. So that would be my idea of the paranormal and its influence upon us.
Isn't there a forest somewhere in Indiana where boulders were found in trees?
Oh yeah, well, that was near Nashville. And in fact, I actually saw one of those. I used to work at the PBS station there in Indianapolis, Channel 20, and I used to be the videographer for a show they did called Across Indiana. And one of the stories involved that, and we actually talked to the guy who made the first discovery, and he took us out to this location, and I suppose that somebody with a block and tackle, who knows what they're doing, could probably have hauled these boulders up into the top of this tree. And, I'm not talking about, like a 10-foot tree or something like that. No, this boulder was up like, 60, 70 feet up off the ground. Yeah. So my only question is, why would somebody want to do that?
Right.
Yeah.
In the middle of the forest too.
Could do it, but why?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it was like on the beaten path where everybody goes. I mean, it's kind of out there, It's like, okay.
Oh yeah, it was way off the beaten track. So, and I had to haul, I had to carry, just all kinds of heavy equipment. That was my job, out to this location. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I mean, why somebody would want to do that, I don't know.
Well, it's good to know that Indiana has some mysteries, and I imagine there's mysteries all through the United States, and it looks to me like around the world you've traveled to find some of these. So in your travels and investigations, have you come to any conclusion? Would you say definitively that there is an alternative universe or another dimension, or are we just dealing with unknown science? Is it just purely a scientific thing that our senses, as we know them, cannot perceive, but yet sometimes borders into the realm of our senses, and we pick it up?
Oh, I think both. I mean, I do believe that with my just barely understanding, quantum physics, and some of the theories that they have is that, our universe, I mean, it's not just what we see with our eyes and hear with our, ears and touch with our fingers. There's a lot more, involved in that. There's probably an infinite number of universes and realities out there. But again, there are also things right here in this material reality that we can't see and perceive. I mean, I think that there are probably, what would be a good word for it? Other life forms that exist right alongside with us that we can't see, and possibly even consider us food, fodder, however you want to look at it. And I'm not talking about, say, like, biblical or other early religious ideas of, like spirits and demons or things like that, even though that these things are more than happy to take on that role if they think it's going to be, beneficial to them. In the Middle East, they were called the jinn. Our translation would be like genies. But I think these are things that live right alongside us. We just can't perceive them with the our senses that we evolved with to survive the material world.
Hold on, that's a trigger word, man. I got to go find a safe space. I believe that's a trigger word, evolved, right there, man. Ooh, I need some crayons right now or something.
Evolution is real, Daniel. Wow. Evolution is real. Yeah. You look at how we've grown our crops and bred our dogs. I mean, you look at dogs. I mean, you like dogs, don't you? When they started out, they looked like wolves, yet we were able to genetically manipulate them through breeding throughout the years. That's a form of evolution. Yeah. So,
but you just can't breed a dog with a cat. Hey, all right.
Oh, that would be a mad pairing.
Huh. Well, I guess if evolution was true, you could. All right, now moving on. This is from Dreamwalker out of our live chat. It says, what are the lost journals of Nikola Tesla?
If our listeners are familiar with Nikola Tesla, he was the just a fantastic genius who lived and operated mostly in the 19th and early of the 20th century. Nikola Tesla was responsible for the invention of the AC motor, which has basically, I mean, that's our entire technology right now, is thanks to Nikola Tesla and his inventions. Nikola Tesla basically invented the radio. I mean, it wasn't Marconi. Marconi actually used patents from Tesla to build his radio equipment. But Tesla was rather an eccentric genius. I mean, he one of his great innovations was the building of the electrical power plant at Niagara Falls. He developed, and with the help of his engineers, I mean, they built the dynamos that tapped into all that great power at Niagara Falls, and that's just one of the just the fantastic things that this guy did. Tesla was not a great note taker. If he had an idea, he would tell his assistants, and his assistants then would write it down and make it happen. Tesla had this ability where he could, and he really couldn't control it, but he could see, if he had an idea about an invention, he would see almost like a hologram or like a vision appear in front of his eyes, and he could actually rotate it in any direction. He could take it apart like a puzzle, and he knew exactly how this thing would work before it was even built. And so then he would, he'd scribble some notes, but then he'd get, him and his assistants would then, make it a reality. Mm-hmm. As Tesla grew older, and after the fiasco with his attempt to create a transmission facility out on Long Island to transmit electricity or energy without wires, a lot of his work ended up being confiscated because of bills that he owed. Sometimes they were just lost. As the years went by, a lot of his material just basically disappeared. Some of it was seized by the United States government when he died. Others, ended up in private collections. These were the lost journals of Nikola Tesla. In my book, some of this material showed up in an auction for a household that the last remaining heir to this household had died, and so everything was being auctioned off. And this guy was a book buyer, and he bought a couple of boxes of books. Well, underneath these books were a bunch of these journals from Tesla. Some of them looked like that they had been taken from Wardenclyffe, Long Island, where he had built this wireless transmitter. When the United States government ended up blowing it up near the beginning of World War I, they were afraid that the German submarines would be able to hone in on it. Mm-hmm. A lot of this material just ended up flying in the air. Well, obviously, a lot of people, somebody collected a lot of it and saved it. In this material was just like a mishmash of Tesla's notes, ideas, magazine articles that he wrote, newspaper interviews, and that sort of thing. In a nutshell, that's Lost Journals.
Well, let me ask you, Tim Schwartz, is the say like the cell phone wireless battery charging that we have now, do you think it's a technology that they gave to the tech companies that were just now releasing?
I think it's more along the lines that they are starting to rediscover.
I mean, if they can wirelessly charge a battery, it seems to me they could wirelessly turn a light on.
Well, and you have to understand.
I mean, shooting power to it, like.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, and you have to understand, I mean, Tesla's idea was that he could, either, transmit this through the atmosphere or through the ground with a type of, based on the Earth Schumann's resonance. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, we're talking about, over hundreds of miles, not just, like setting your cell phone on a charging plate and that sort of thing. The problem is that at least as far as we know, and I have to believe that there may be some like maybe the military or people like that have a better idea. We're not exactly sure how Tesla planned to do this. He obviously knew how to do it. He never would have gone as far as to actually have raised money, gotten backers and went as far as to actually build this transmitter array. I mean, they actually, they had dug 50 feet into the ground to put the pipes, into the bedrock for the resonance. They had this copper-plated tower that went, another like 50 miles, 50 feet up into the air. Tesla knew what he was going to do. He would not have gone this far if he wasn't exactly sure that this was going to work. As far as I know, though, nobody has discovered just exactly how he was going to make this happen. I've seen some television shows where engineers have, put up like these big Tesla coils and, shooting electricity all over the place. And, they say, oh, well, this is what Tesla was planning. And it wouldn't work because, every church steeple and, a lightning rod, would be charged and shooting off electricity. Well, obviously that wasn't what Tesla had planned. But what it was he had planned, I don't know.
Some people say that the pyramids were actually some sort of power plant too, as well. So, and that goes to sort of ancient technology. Certainly, we've seen the hieroglyphs of what look to be electronic devices, and there are really unexplainable coincidences for today's technology. And I saw a question pop up: is it that the elites have already stolen all of the ancient technology and they have it at their disposal and they're just keeping it from the masses?
Well, it could be. I mean, I don't know. As you called it, the elites, it may be suppressed because a lot of these people who would be interested in this type of technology have gotten rich off of, say like oil production and things like that. And, and they don't want something, say, like the wireless transmission of energy to get in their way. But, what people don't understand is that, Tesla's concept for this would have required some kind of a method to produce this electricity, whether it be, like Niagara Falls or, burning coal or oil or what have you, though Tesla had some absolutely fabulous ideas concerning, like cosmic rays and, solar radiation and stuff like that. But back in Tesla's time, he had to work with the technology that was available to him at the time. I have heard, I've had some soldiers who fought in the first Iraq War, come to me and say that they were given, especially those who, were out in the middle of nowhere in the deserts, that they were given these backpacks that they had set them down and they'd put an antenna, it had a built-in antenna. They put it up in the air, and that was a generator. And they were able to power a lot of things, off of this little backpack with just this antenna. And it wasn't a battery, even though it did have, like a small battery in it to bring in the power. But they told me, and I got this from several different people who had no idea that I was talking to, others. I mean, it's the same story from several different sources. What this backpack was, I'm not sure. I get the idea that somewhere somebody actually had a transmitter that was transmitting electricity, and that these field arrays, or these little field units, were able to pick this up. And they were, as soon as their missions were finished, they had to turn them in. And of course, they were told that they, due to national security, they weren't allowed to, talk about anything that they had. Yeah. Though these guys did, though.
hey, Tim, you said you worked at Channel 20. Did you ever know Clayton Taylor?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Clayton came into the station just, right around the time that I was leaving. But I think Clayton originally worked for Channel 6.
Yeah, Channel 6. He moved over there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, we've got a lot of questions coming in for you. Here's a question, and this is earlier we were discussing thin places and the possibility that there are places on the planet that, say, are entry points to other dimensions, or maybe just doorways to other dimensions, or maybe they exist side by side and various things kind of they're in flux right at the joining part. So this is from Canada. Were you ever in contact with? Was this now I may get this wrong, but it looks like Shaver. It says Hollow Earth was in fact another dimension.
Yeah, they're referring to Richard Shaver, who wrote a number of articles for Ray Palmer's magazines back in especially like the 1940s and 50s, and part of what was called the Shaver mystery. And Richard Shaver believed, and he claimed that it was more than just a belief, that he had actual contact, that living underground was a race of creatures, even though their descendants were human at one point, that had access to technology that existed really before our civilization, arose on this planet, and that due to some kind of a past cataclysm, whether it be the flood or what have you, they were forced to go underground. And underground living is not really a great thing. And as they lived down there, they basically just kind of de-evolved. Shaver called them Deros, which meant, what was it, like de-evolutionized robots. And he didn't mean robots by mechanical means. He just meant more along the lines of like mutants types of.
So would you suggest they could, in fact, have developed or evolved with big black eyes to see in the dark?
Yeah, that's something that Tim Beckley and I have talked about previously, because it does seem kind of funny that these big-eyed gray creatures that seem to love flying around and abducting people have these eyes that don't really seem to be conducive to living on a surface where, with bright sunlight, but more of a species that lives underground. I don't know. I mean, if you would have talked to Shaver or Ray Palmer or some of the early believers in the whole Shaver mystery, I think that they would have found significant, in this, like with the Dero, and then the kind of the evolution almost of the big-eyed aliens. You have people who, they're convinced that, the whole UFO phenomena has nothing to do with creatures coming from other planets, that these are things that live on the planet with us, that at some point they kind of like broke away from the human line and moved underground. And that, maybe we were just a little too rough for them. And then they develop their civilization underground, and that they keep us fooled by making us think, making people think who'll come in contact with them, and they're like, yeah, we're from outer space, guys. Sure, yeah, that's the ticket.
What really actually inner space?
They're living in underground caverns.
So they're really from inner space.
Exactly. And I think that there may be something to that, because there have been a number of people who have come forward over the years who have made the very same claims, and we're not familiar with some of the other mythologies that have come out over the years involving underground civilizations and contact with beings who say that they're from someplace else, but probably live right alongside us, just maybe underground or
well, Tim, you mentioned a worldwide cataclysmic flood. 110 ancient cultures all claim that some flood type event happened. I'm just wondering if the people that lived here, and maybe even the Atlanteans for that matter, if they went underground, they'd have to have some kind of pretty watertight seal there, wouldn't they?
You would think so, right? Exactly.
I'm just saying, man, close the hatch,
some
brother.
of these. I'm sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to say somebody's got to close that hatch, and I don't know how big it is, but they're going to have to close that.
Well, people have discovered, all over the planet, some really fantastic tunnel systems that appear to be, fantastically old, yet seem to have been built using modern, or whatever modern would be, modern type of technology. South America, like in Bolivia, Chile, places like that, they have found these tunnels that appear to have been dug and then vitrified. The walls are glass. They're smooth and glassy. Something that would not, as far as we know, would not have been available, to any technology or any civilization before our own. Yet these tunnels appear to be incredibly old. So old that they can't be dated.
And everything has not been discovered. That's for daggone sure. Now talk about there are those giant caves in Mexico that, of course, they don't fill up with water. So I don't know. Maybe you can survive. Maybe they got some good sump pumps down there. All right, here gigantic ones. All right, here's a question from the live chat. It says, Tim Schwartz, have you in your research have you ever been spoken to or spoken with an entities, spirits, or ghosts?
I have never, as far as I know, have had like a direct, face-to-face, conversation with an entity or anything like that. I've seen and experienced some truly bizarre stuff, like rocks falling from a ceiling of a house that was haunted by a poltergeist. I saw one time at somebody's house who lived nearby here, basically a brand new house, standing talking to this person, and on the counter next to me was this like a decorative tin can, kind of like a holiday popcorn and stuff comes in.
Right.
They had like a series of these sitting on this counter, and all of a sudden one of them suddenly shook. Like there was a mouse inside of it. That was the first thing I thought of when it did that. Mm-hmm. It shook, and then it slid across the counter on its own. As soon as it did that, I grabbed it and picked it up and opened it up. I was expecting, because it reminded me of, like those cat toys that you wind up and, you put it on the floor and they skid around. And that's the way the movement ran. It was empty. The counter was dry. No earthquakes, no trucks going by or anything like that. Yet this, yet this thing slid across the counter on its own. So I've had experiences like that, but I've never had an entity appear to me and try to set up a conversation. I'm not sure if I would be too keen on that, to tell you the truth.
All right, we have this question from Peter in Australia. It says, Tim, do you know which countries have scalar weapons technology pioneered by Tesla?
Oh my gosh. Well, let's see. Probably the United States. That's a given. The Russia. At the time it was the Soviet Union. You have to remember that Tesla was born in Croatia. For a while it was Yugoslavia, and after he died, a lot of his notes ended up going back to Yugoslavia. They've got a big museum there now with a lot of his material, and the Soviet Union was able to get a hold of a lot of this stuff as well. Prior to World War II, the Nazis had a pretty extensive spy ring on the East Coast, and I'm pretty sure that they were able to get away with a lot of Tesla's material because some of the experiments that were being conducted by the German military close to the end of World War II seemed to be just based directly off of a lot of Tesla's early experiments. We're talking about, like field propulsion, exotic weaponry along the lines of particle beam weapons and things like that. So, if Germany had anything, it probably ended up in the hands of the Soviet Union at the end of the war as well. China now probably has it. I would say that most of the major companies have access to major countries have access to scalar weaponry. You have to remember, all of these countries, all over the world, I mean, they have such extensive spy networks that, as soon as one country just, makes a discovery, it's not too long afterwards before, everybody else has it as well.
Yeah.
It's just, us,
it's a free for all out there, man.
Yeah, it really is. It's just, the rest of us, the poor peons. I mean, we have no idea what's actually going on.
Well, with Iran breaking the deal there that they made with the Obama administration, you would think that that we could just like turn their internet off.
Well, it has been done, not with Iran, but with other countries. Gosh, when was this? I mean, it's probably about 5 years ago. Yeah. There were a number of countries that all of a sudden, I mean, there was this spate of their internet being turned off. And I can't remember now which countries it was, but most of them were countries that weren't exactly friends with the United States.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you take away their goat porn, it really make them mad. All right, let's go to this question over here. It's from Margot. Are there any underground bases that are connected to the inner Earth?
Well, okay. Now, when you say the inner Earth, I mean, it's throughout history there was this idea that the Earth, could be hollow inside, almost like say like an egg. If you blow out the yolk and the white, then you just have the shell. A lot of people envision, like we live on the surface, and then there's like another world on the other side, maybe even with a little sun in the middle. I'm not quite sure. I sincerely doubt if it's actually like that. But then again, I've never been there. So, I can't guarantee, that's just my opinion. However, I do believe, as I stated earlier, that the planet is crisscrossed with a vast tunnel system that was probably built at least probably several different technology based civilizations that existed on this planet before our own. So I do think that especially out in the western part of the country, there does seem to be some pretty good evidence that the United States military has made use of these underground systems. I mean, they've built their own, and you have somebody like Philip Schneider, who claimed, I mean, that when they were in the process of building,
well, either Philip Schneider, either he was really in a battle with the aliens, or he bit his own fingers off to be convincing.
Exactly. Well, and do you see the pictures of the scars all over his body? I mean, he looked like that he was, beaten very hard with a very big stick.
That reminds me of some kind of sick movie. I can't remember what it was, and maybe somebody in the live chat can tell me. But there's like this guy wanted to, I don't know if he's infiltrating a crime syndicate or whatever, but they met him in a back alley, and the guy said, "To prove your worth, you've got to bite your own finger off." And I don't know, man. I don't know what movie that was, but it was pretty sick. All right, here's a question for you. It says, this is from Canada. It says, whatever happened to Ralph Ring that flew his UFO? His website is gone.
Boy, gosh, I haven't heard that name in quite a while. That's a very good question. I don't know. The military industrial complex probably took. Oh, somebody just put the name of the show I just alluded to as Jack Reacher. Okay. All righty. And here's a question. It says, is CERN a Tesla concept? Is CERN a Tesla concept? No, no. I mean that CERN is what it's a like a particle accelerator. But and that was something that would have been really beyond Tesla's understanding of the workings of the universe. At the time, Tesla, in fact, I mean, he hated the ideas of, say, like Edison and Bohr, the leading proponent of quantum theory. Tesla didn't see the universe working like that at all. And of course, Einstein and Bohr didn't see the universe working the way Tesla saw it either. With all these guys, I think that it's kind of like the blind men trying to tell what an elephant is, by touching it, with their hands. Mm-hmm. I think all of these guys had a really good a grasp on how the universe worked, except that they were just looking at it within their own speciality.
Mm-hmm. 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 All right, here's a question from Cleet out of the live chat. He asked, what are your thoughts on the Nazi Hollow Earth connection, especially related to General Byrd, or I think it's Admiral Byrd's mission?
Admiral Byrd,
just straighten this out, Tim. Are the Nazis going to arise from the bowels of the earth and attack the world?
No, I don't think so. I think I think that threat is long past us. But the question, though, the Nazis were extremely interested, especially that that occult arm of the Nazis. They were extremely interested in trying to get in contact with a race of Aryans that they believed were like the root race of like the white society on this planet, and they believed that that these people lived underground. So there were a number of expeditions that were formed and sent to, say, like Nepal, Tibet, South America, and Antarctica in an attempt to locate these secret passageways to this underground civilization. Mm-hmm. Whether or not the entire Nazi high command was in on this, or whether or not it was just like just kind of like a weird branch of the Nazis, because I mean we definitely know that some of the very highest ranking Nazi officials were very into occult ideas and the use of technology and the occult. You had like the Vril and the Tull societies that actually developed, back in the early 1900s, and then were incorporated into the whole Nazi ideals, after the end of World War I. There's actually some of the German U-boat captains who turned themselves into South America at the end of the war. They claimed that they had let off a number of Nazi, workers and intelligence officers and scientists and equipment, in Antarctica at a secret underground facility.
I wonder if the Nazis, before they were rooted out or destroyed, pretending that they were, we'll go there just for my comment here. I wonder if they knew that if 70 years later that the word Nazi would be right on the headline, still on the headlines of the papers, and it's still in virtually everybody's Facebook post. If you disagree with somebody, you're a Nazi. If you're left, you're a Nazi. If you're right, you're a Nazi. If whatever. I mean, is a joke on us? We're still using their name, man.
Well, it could actually be, like a part of this, the whole thing that they planned. Because
whatever it is, the Nazis haven't gone away. Tim, we're right at the top of the hour, and we'll bring them back in a second. We're going to bring the Nazis back in the second hour too. By the way, I've got your book, Admiral Byrd's Secret Journey Beyond the Poles in Our Background. How can people get the book, and how can they even reach you or see some of the other things that you've written?
Oh, sure. Well, that book and all my others are available at Amazon.com. And of course, you can go to our website, which is conspiracyjournal.com. All they have to do, like on Amazon, just type in my name and, they'll be overwhelmed. I guarantee it.
Okay. All right. We're going to turn you down here for 5 minutes. Middle of our player, and we'll put it in have ready at the helm there. Let's go back to our newsmaker line and bring back with us Tim Schwartz. Tim, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm ready to go again.
All righty. Wow, man. We talk about, I just want to be assured. See, I'm kind of scared right now. I know I'm a powerful cowboy, and I ain't scared of being out in the range at night and all the monsters out there, chupacabras chasing me. But I don't want the, you know what I'm saying? They're out there, man. They're running in packs. And, in fact, have you ever seen Avatar?
Yes.
Okay. There's a scene in there where these dogs with like 6 legs and glowing eyes. They're black shiny dogs, and they're coming at the guy, the Marine. I mean, that's what it's like when the cowboy's out there. That's like a gang of chupacabras, man. A whole pack of them that coming at me, and I've only got so many bullets in my gun. But anyway, I want to be assured that the Nazis aren't coming back. I mean, I've had so many people say that they're down there, and so by now they've evolved their technology because they had nothing to do down there except build better technology.
I don't. I wonder whether or not the Fourth Reich is still around or not, or whether or not they just decided that. That they would just take everything and go and blend in with the rest of the planet and become, like bankers and stockbrokers and, with their investment portfortlios and just take over the world financially rather than with bullets and guns. That's probably a more likely scenario.
Well, I see one comment. I mean, finally somebody said something nice about the Nazis. They were snappy dressers. I mean, come on, man. Those black uniforms, man, with those nice little swastikas there. I mean, look, put aside the fact of the things they did, but they did know how to dress, okay? And so, well, anyway, there's one positive.
Well, and even if they didn't, would you tell them otherwise?
No, you really wouldn't. You really, you don't want to cross a Nazi. By the way, speaking of crossing Nazis, I think I heard a lot of them were cross dressers. But anyway, let's get to another. This question is from Georgia. It says, did Tesla believe in a higher power or a spirit world?
When Tesla was growing up, I mean, you have to remember, his father was an Orthodox priest, and in fact, his father wanted Tesla to become a priest himself. And so Tesla, I mean, he grew up in that environment, and I don't think that he was capable of thinking otherwise. He believed in science and he believed that the universe, worked in a specific fashion, and that was because of a higher power, because of God. I mean, the universe works because God created it and set things in motion, and science was basically God's building blocks to make the universe go. Now, he definitely had different ideas when it came to, say, like, the paranormal and ESP and things like that. He was approached when he was living in New York at one time by one of the, I can't remember what it was. It was like, the Psychic Society of New York. And, they asked him if he wanted to become a member. And, I mean, he just didn't, he didn't have any time for him. He just said, I don't believe in that stuff. So, basically just go away. Now, as he got older, I think that he became a little bit more open-minded to different ideas. I mean, he became very interested in, say, like Eastern philosophy and ideas, because he could see some some things in the way that their descriptions of how the universe and reality work that seem to be very similar to his scientific understanding of the way things operated. But as for his personal beliefs and things like that, not as much, I think, as a lot of people like to think that he has. I've read some books, and there's a lot of things on the internet that talk about how Tesla was believed in ghost and ESP and things like that, and I don't think that that's entirely true.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's a question from Raul Sanchez. Wants to know: have you ever watched the show Finding Hitler?
Oh yes, definitely. I tell you something, that's a very fascinating show, and it just goes to really confirm. One of the first books I ever wrote dealt with that. Really, with that whole idea of the fact that at the end of World War II, the Nazi Party just didn't, the Nazis just didn't disappear. Mm-hmm. They just spread out and took on different names and looked for other methods to control the planet. The book that I wrote it was given this this wonderful title of what was it? Evil Agenda of the Secret Government. Mm-hmm. But when I put that book together, I mean, I had access to the material that was available at the time. Some released FBI and CIA documents that had come out from the Freedom of Information Act, as well as quite a bit of paperwork that came from other countries. Israel, England. Even Eastern. Not Eastern, Western Germany at the time, that talked about how a lot of these high-ranking officials, scientists, intelligence officers had made it out of Germany, including Hitler, and how a lot of them had ended up in South America, especially Argentina.
The boys of summer, right there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, say that again.
The boys of summer.
Yes, exactly. The Perón government was very friendly, to the Nazis, and even was using Nazi scientists to build their own atomic weapon program. In the 1950s, the military actually, had a coup against Perón, and that was all dismantled. And then, these guys ended up going to, Paraguay and Chile and places like that. So yeah, I mean, it's a very real situation.
Well, Tim, over the hundreds of interviews I've done for the past 15 years, so far, I got like a checklist of who's in inner Earth. I've got Nazis down there. I've got aliens down there. I got Bigfoot down there. I got the Atlanteans down there. Is it one day they're all going to fight it out, and then whoever wins that battle is going to come up out of there?
Well, it's gotten so crowded.
And you got demons. You got demons.
It's just going to happen. They're just all going to burst through, the surface and just come pouring out like ants out of an anthill.
I can see that. All right, let's get to another question. This is from Phil, North Carolina. It says, Tim, what do you think about what's going on in the Antarctic? It seems that high-ranking leaders have been going there.
Yeah, that is something that's been really strange recently. I mean, gosh, you had John Kerry going down there. You had Buzz Aldrin. You had I can't remember his name. It's like a religious leader out of Russia going down there. It's just, of course, now the official explanation is that they're all tourists and they're just going down there to look at penguins and stare at the glaciers. But obviously, I think there's something more involved. I was on another show not too long ago, and the host, he had this really good idea that the Russians, when they were drilling into that frozen lake Vostok, been covered in miles of ice for millions of years. And, they drilled down into it just to see, what, because, it still had liquid water under that ice, just to see if there's anything living down there. And, he had the theory that they may have come across life forms that, had been frozen underneath this ice all this time that may prove that that they were of extraterrestrial in origin, and that possibly we're then the descendants, of this extraterrestrial life form. That sometime in the distant past, maybe after, and I can't remember, was it the Precambrian period? It's probably further back than that. There was a time when basically there was almost nothing but sea life, and then there was this huge extinction event. And then not too long after that, a new type of life developed in the ocean that seemed to be completely different than the previous forms of life. And some scientists have speculated that there may have been some kind of like cosmic calamity, like an asteroid hit the planet, or a number of asteroids hit the planet, and that at the same time they may have also have hit Mars. And that some of the chunks that were broken off of Mars, which at the time had liquid water and a lot more friendlier environment than it is now, and that some of these life forms were brought to planet Earth, and then they developed here to the point that we're the direct results of that. And it's an interesting theory. It's as good as any of the other ones that I've been hearing recently about why all the sudden interest in Antarctica. I would love to know. Of course, a lot of my friends, they know my writing and interest. They're like, oh, well, maybe they found that secret Nazi base and everybody's going down there to talk to them.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think so.
Hey, did you know if you put steel plugs in the side of John Kerry's neck, he looked just like Frankenstein? Hey, I'm really intrigued with that drilling down into that water. I mean, you would think that probably the most nutritious water you could ever have, unpolluted and stuff. I mean, that's really why I take colloidal minerals, because it's made from stuff that's hundreds of thousands of years old, and the original minerals they extract from it. So, I'm very intrigued about that. And I would say that we haven't discovered everything that there is, and there has to be life forms around this planet. Of course, then again, would we want them to come up out of there because they may just take over the planet?
Exactly.
So I say keep them down there.
There's a Russian scientist that he discovered, in the thawing permafrost in Siberia, some kind of, I can't remember, it was like a bacteria or virus or something along these lines that, hasn't seen the light of day for, millions of years. And he went and injected himself with this stuff, saying that, this is going to lead me, living a lot longer life, like almost like a form of immortality. And of course, a couple of years later, he's still alive. I can't believe it. He's still alive, and he's saying that, he hasn't had a cold or been sick, since injecting himself with this kind of stuff. But boy, I tell you something, I think that's really, it's like Russian roulette. I mean, you just don't know, something that's been, hasn't, been in our atmosphere for millions of years. You go and inject yourself something. That's, that's like some of these bad horror movies that, that you say, the scientist injects himself with some kind of compound like that, and all of a sudden he's the alligator man or something.
There was a guest I was talking to not too long ago, and we were discussing a book called Divine Revelation of Hell from Mary Kay Baxter, and which she said she was taken above the earth, and there was these tubes or tunnels that went from outer space straight down into inner space in the center of the earth. Of course, now her visions that she saw said the center of the earth was filled with demons. So I don't know, but anyway, there were portals to hell. And but here's a question. It reminded me of this because this question just came in and says, if somebody were to enter the hollow earth, what would they expect to see there?
Well, if, okay, say, and this is just, speculation, of course, say the Earth was hollow, like we talked about earlier, or like, if anybody's interested, they should read a great series of books by Edgar Rice Burroughs, the Pellucidar series. This is the guy who wrote the Tarzan books and everything like that. And these series of books, I mean, that's what it's about. The Earth is hollow. There's a little sun in the center, and there's almost like different kinds of civilizations, prehistoric life, jungles, and everything else down there. Mm-hmm. So if the Earth was actually, hollow along those lines, there wouldn't be any horizon. First of all, you'd be living. It would look like that you were living in the bottom of a giant bowl. The Earth would, rather than a horizon, it would just, reach up into the sky until it disappeared into the blue. There wouldn't be any sunrise or sunset either. It would be, permanent daylight. So, I mean, that's what it would be like if the Earth was actually hollow.
Who come up with this idea that there's a molten core spinning at thousands of miles an hour? How's that even trackable?
The idea came about because of the Earth's magnetic field. The scientists are trying to figure out, why the Earth has a magnetic field. How is it produced? And the best idea that they could come up with is this spinning molten core of iron and nickel. Under laboratory conditions. Naturally on a smaller scale, these conditions would produce a magnetic field, and so this is where the original idea came from. And of course, now you also have seismic events. They've been able to track the different kinds of frequencies that earthquakes produce. I mean, all the way through the crust of the planet, and according to their studies, these
wait a minute. Go ahead. Let me stop you there, because I'm trying to think. Because I'm going to go with this evolution thing for a second. I'm going to agree with the Big Bang. So all right. So we got. In the Big Bang, then we had a molten core that was ejected or blew apart from the original Big Bang spot or whatever it was. And so instead of making a planet, a molten core went flying out into space, parked about where the Earth is, and it stopped about where the Earth is. And then I guess what? Their mountains were flying in space, and then they attached to the molten core, and then the water, there were oceans flying around in space, and they landed on Earth too. Is that
well? I mean, you have to realize, of course, that the Earth and the Sun. I mean, we're like fifth or sixth generations away from the Big Bang. I mean, supposedly after the Big Bang, there was like giant stars that were formed that blew apart, and then the ashes and dust from those formed other stars, and then they blew apart, and and then eventually we came along. But
so was the water
flying? Basically,
was the oceans flying around in space too?
Oh well, there's water in space. I mean, it's not. I mean, you're not. It's not liquid water. I mean, the moon. They have found water on the moon.
It seemed like it had to be quite a bit of water flying around in space. Hey, let's get to this question, Tim. This says, did Tesla build a time machine?
That's those are some of the stories that the skeptics and debunkers, love to just tear Tesla apart about. I mean, it's you get these people who are just like, Tesla wasn't so great. So what if he, developed the AC motor and came up with a whole, electrical grid system and invented radio and robotics and microwaves and fluorescent lights and I mean, he wasn't great. I mean, people say he built, flying saucers and time machines. That's just, bullcrap. No, I don't think that Tesla actually did build a time machine. Though, there are some people like who is Andrew Basiago, who says that that he was part of a government program that used like a time machine slash interdimensional or transporter device based on Tesla's experiments.
Yeah, he called them jump rooms.
Yes, exactly. I'm sorry, Dan.
No, we had him on the show, and he announced his vice presidential candidate right here on this program.
Yeah, well, I mean, he said that he was going to win, this last election.
I know, but now he's, according to Facebook, he's getting ready for the 2020 election. So good luck.
He just keeps pushing it back, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like Planet Nibiru. It seems like it gets pushed back every time it gets close. So
exactly. But Tesla had to work with the technology that was available, with him at the time. I mean, he had some concepts and theories and things like that. But I mean, he really didn't even have vacuum tubes to work with, and you'd have to have an awful lot of energy to build a working time machine. He did have almost like an out of body experience when he was struck by an arc of electricity, and he said that he could actually. It seemed like that he was outside of time and space, and that he could see the past, present, and future all existing at the same time, and that he felt like that he was in this this kind of like realm of existence almost for an eternity until his assistant was able to like smack him with a wooden board, and knock him out of the arc.
Right.
But it gave him some ideas though on the possibility of how a time machine, or at least the concept of traveling through time and space may be possible. But as for actually building one himself, I don't think so.
Can quantum physics explain time?
They're trying to. Well, I don't know. Einstein, everyone thinks that Einstein was able to describe time. The whole idea that time and space are basically one and the same. But as we get more and more better understanding of quantum physics, it seems like that there's more to it than that. It's of course a lot of scientists they never even wanted to approach the whole idea of time. You'd ask a scientist what time was, and he'd say, "Don't ask me. That's you go ask a philosopher. He'll tell you they'll tell you about time. I can't do that."
I wonder. Somebody said that Tesla invented an eternal energy machine. And God created eternal life machine. All right, let's get to this question here for you, Tim. It says, if the earth is indeed hollow, shouldn't there be errors in the calculations of the earth's mass and orbital data as compared to the solid earth model? Great question there.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and again, I mean, if you buy into the whole idea that the Earth is hollow, possibly whatever say there is a sun in the center, and sun. It could actually be a mass of iron and nickel that has been heated to the point that it's actually glowing like a sun. Then who knows? I mean, it's again this is one of these speculative questions that I really can't answer, because going back to the whole idea of the Earth being completely hollow inside, I just don't think that's that's true. I think that's kind of an antiquated theory at this point.
Mm-hmm. What technology that we have today would you think would be extracted from the lost journals of Tesla?
Probably the field propulsion, I think, would be one of the best things that could be developed, and it may already have.
Isn't field propulsion? Isn't that used to describe the possible propulsion systems of UFO crafts?
Exactly. Yes. Tesla was one of the earliest people to observe some kind of effects using electricity and various forms of vibrational resonance that he thought had great potential for being like an anti-gravity effect. This work was continued on by T. Townsend Brown and other people, and whether I say that this has a lot of potential to it, and it may already have been worked out. I mean, the whole UFO phenomena, especially like maybe the black triangles and things like that, may be a direct result of this kind of experimentation that has been made workable.
Was he one of the ones that were attempted to describe the possibility that the Egyptians used sound resonance to transport the 10-ton blocks?
It wasn't Tesla, though Tesla did work on using audio for various kinds of purposes. Tesla had the earthquake machine, as he described it, though that actually worked along the lines of using small taps or raps that would build a resonance over time and create almost like an earthquake effect. Tesla did. He did some experiments on the idea of what kind of power would be available in various forms of audio effects. But as for levitation and things like that really wasn't something that Tesla worked on.
Mm-hmm. I think it was the movie Independence Day, but it may have been another alien type contact movie that a flock of birds are flying and they fly right into it, and they show the UFO craft like the mothership as being invisible, but you can see the birds actually hitting it and falling down. This may be an unrelated question, but I was just thinking about it because today I saw some beach that I know tens of thousands of squid washed up on the shore dead, but we've been seeing this a lot. Whether it's a specific flock type of bird, or whales, or squid, or fish. I think there's a river that all the fish, a certain specific fish died, and they were all floating, hundreds of thousands of them. But what do you think's causing specific amounts of the same species to die at the same time?
I don't know. That is weird. Especially now birds, it may be a little easier to understand that because, it's a lot of the birds that have been found dead or falling out of the sky, are species that tend to flock. Like grackles and starlings and
I've heard ridiculous explanations like a flock of birds ran into some fireworks.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man, really? All right, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, there could be, all kinds of mundane explanations that they've tried to come up with that, these birds, they caught some kind of virus or bug, and then just all of a sudden, all of them died at once and fell out of the sky. I doubt if that's true. There have been some very interesting experiments that have been conducted. I think of like the Harp Array, which supposedly no longer operates in Alaska, that was experimenting with radio frequencies, to see if they could, if it could heat up the atmosphere in specific locations, if it could be, a narrow beam to the point where it could actually blast a missile out of the sky. What if what if this technology has gotten to the point where you, not even the military anymore, maybe some unscrupulous company or corporation, is experimenting with a device like this and aiming it, say, like at birds or fish or what have you, just to see what would happen. Of course, then you have people say like, oh well, these birds are running into invisible UFOs. Like you said in the movie, they just all run into it at once and then drop to the sky.
In fact, I just saw that again watching on Netflix a show called Alien Abduction. In that case, they're in these people are driving on Brown Mountain, which is known for UFO activity and abductions, missing people, and all of a sudden they're driving down this mountain road, and birds just start dropping, just all of them, the whole flock of them. I don't know how many hundreds of them just start falling on this vehicle. So there seems to be some kind of connection maybe between alien activity. Of course, now you just said the more mundane type of explanation, but I think there also might be something in our atmosphere as far as birds goes, but that doesn't explain the specific squid species washing up. I mean, I know we have Fukushima out there, but I don't think that radiation is going to be targeting certain fish species either. But and what do you think about Fukushima? Are we doomed as a species? Is that thing going to leak forever?
Oh my God! Well, I'm not quite sure what the half-life is on the plutonium rods that they've got boiling away in there, but it's it's not going to get any better. Let me put it this way. I mean, they can go and wrap it up in concrete and all that, but it's almost impossible to seal something like that up from the environment in a haphazard fashion like they're trying to do. They just can't go and put like a steel sphere around it underground and all that. They have it's like the Russians with Chernobyl. I mean, they built that giant concrete. No, it's not concrete. Now it's like that giant stainless steel dome that they slid across that. Well, that's fine, except that that still leaves underground for this kind of stuff to leak out from. So any of these kinds of disasters, they're going to be with us as long as probably as we're here on the planet, unless they come up with some way that they can neutralize radiation. Some kind of like new scientific discovery. It's not going to get any better.
Well, see, that's where the alien apologists don't really make any sense, because they always say that the aliens are here to help us and they don't like us destroying the planet. Well, if they don't, they certainly would find a way to get Fukushima off the planet. So they're not helping us much there, Tim.
Well, see, now that goes back to what I was saying before about the possibility that we have maybe one, if not several, older civilizations that still live with us, on this planet, and they have tried to convince us that they're extraterrestrials. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they, look at the early contactee movement, with George Adamski and people like that. The Space Brothers are always telling them, you got to stop the atomic experiments, because you're going to blast the Earth apart and it's going to infect the solar system and the rest of the universe. Well, that's crazy. That's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. However, if they're a race that live on the planet with us, yeah, they're going to have, they're going to be really concerned, that, we're experimenting with these atomic weapons, because not only are we going to blow ourselves apart, we're going to blow them apart too. So they're going to do everything they possibly can to get us to stop.
I have in the background, I got a picture of Earth from space, and it is the North Pole. It looks like North Pole. Maybe it's Antarctica. I don't know, but it's a big circle with like a hole in it. And I'm just wondering, man, maybe we should drop some nukes down there, and who's ever down there, may the best species, whether it's the Nazis or the aliens or the demons, whichever one, we would just blast the crap out of them.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. You say demons. Once again, that reminds me of some of these horror movies. They go and doing something like that, and then all hell has been, let loose, running around on the surface of the planet. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If Tesla was here today, what do you think he'd say about our technology? Would he say he'd want a big thank you?
I think that he would probably be disappointed.
Let me ask you: was Tesla on the order of Einstein?
Oh yeah, definitely. Einstein was a theory guy. while Tesla actually made things work, made things happen. So, I mean, I suppose it's kind of like comparing, apples and oranges. I mean, each guy was probably the best at their specialities. I mean, Tesla, I doubt if he would have been able to come up with like the theory of relativity. But then again, I doubt if Einstein would have been able to invent the radio.
Do you agree with a lot of the things that the guy with the pen, what's his name on his shirt? Man, I just had Giorgio Tertullio.
Okay,
ancient aliens
guy.
Yeah, the ancient aliens guy, man, with the guy with the hair. Okay, is he on the right course?
I think that probably, at some time in our past, the Earth has been visited by other races. Whether everything that and of course you have to realize that this guy has a television show and a magazine, that he has to make money off of. So of course, naturally, everything is going to be ancient aliens. But I mean, to a certain extent, I do think that there probably is some good evidence that at some time in the past we were visited. I mean, Carl Sagan early on in his career, he believed that too. As his career depended on him saying otherwise, as he got older, he kind of hid that a little bit in the closet. I mean, I think a lot of the things though that we see that they attribute to ancient aliens, I think that really gives how intelligent the human race is, bad lip service. I mean, Tim, we're a pretty smart species.
Every movie I see that talks about a hollow or inner Earth, a world within a world, usually it's kind of like Jurassic Park type of thing, where you have mosquitoes the size of pterodactyls. So it's never depicted as a world you want to go to. So I don't know if I want to go down there.
Well, again, I mean, if you go by the idea that there's a little sun, being held there by gravity, and so I mean,
So could that? Wait a minute,
it probably would be, kind of like a almost like a jungle type of very warm environment. Whether or not dinosaurs or anything would be down there.
Well, they wanted to escape the flood too, man. When they saw the humans running before the Great Flood, when the Great Flood was coming, and everybody started going down in the inner Earth, the animals saw that and said, "Hey, we're getting the hell out of here too," and they followed them down in there, and that would be the mastodons and everything else. But could it be, if there is a sun within the Earth, could that be the sort of the molten core that would answer two things? One, there's a hollow Earth with a sun, but also could that cause the Earth to spin, like they say, instead of a molten core, it's really a sun down there, and create a magnetic field?
Oh yeah. So that's what I don't know if you've ever talked to him before, but that's what Brooke Agnew's. That's his theory. To him.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't catch
that. That's what he thinks. That probably the crust is a lot thicker than the early proponents of the hollow Earth theory was saying. Someone were saying the crust was only like 500 miles thick. And he was saying that it's probably a lot thicker than that. So then the space in between the interior of the planet and then whatever like the sun in the center would be a lot smaller. And that would give then kind of like erroneous readings from these seismic events that have been recorded, because they're able to tell from one side of the planet to the other. Say you have an earthquake in California, they're able to read that eventually on the other side of the planet, and they can tell just exactly what kind of strata is there these sound waves resonated through. However, there is areas that give readings that appear almost like it's going through atmosphere or water.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering then if we have, say, a lava flow from the inner Earth, perhaps that would be the equivalent of a coronal ejection. Just kind of blasting like the sun does up there. All right, a couple more questions we have for you. Have you seen any of Damon T. Berry's YouTube videos that they say the sun is actually a stargate or a wormhole?
I have seen those, and what can I say? I mean, it's an interesting idea. I would think though that it's like I said, I would think though that if we are actually if there is a Stargate like that a lot closer to us, then unless the Earth is, say, like a quarantine zone or a zoo or something like that, I would think that we'd be seeing a lot more intergalactic activity around here. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like some of these science fiction movies. I mean, it's just or was it like Men in Black? I mean, there'd be a lot more activity going on here rather than people just seeing lights in the sky every now and then, or now, getting kidnapped.
Jim George, have you yourself seen a UFO?
The only thing that I have ever seen, and you have to remember, Daniel, I mean, I'm a very good observer. I know all of the light configurations for commercial, private airlines, satellite, stars, everything like that. I've been invited to a lot of UFO hunts. And usually just once, because people get all excited when they see a plane coming by with its landing lights on. And they're like, "Oh, the aliens are here!" And I'm like, "No, that's a plane with its landing lights on," and they don't like to hear that. Mm-hmm. But there was one time where I saw a very bright red light in the sky. I mean, just imagine like a car, like the brake light of a car, right, up in the sky. Except it was just very bright. It was just hanging there and just not moving. I watched it for quite a while, seeing if maybe it was a plane coming towards me, because you get that effect that it looks like something's hovering if the plane's coming towards you. Right. And then just all of a sudden it just switched off. Yeah,
a lot of times they do look stationary, depending on your view angle.
Right.
But we were talking in the first hour about thin places or spiritual places and that. But a lot of people suggest that where there is UFO activity, there's also Bigfoot activity. Doesn't that sort of corroborate the idea that there may be a Stargate or a thin place or a dimensional interface between two worlds at one central locality?
Yeah, possibly. Well, I mean, not only Bigfoot activity, but you also have, like haunting events, all kinds of unusual activity. Mm-hmm. People will see, like weird creatures, giant birds. I mean, there's just this whole plethora of just really unusual activity, in these areas. And, one of the things that I have done in the past, when I go and talk to people who have had like UFO experiences, I won't directly ask the question. I'll just kind of lead around it to see if they offer it. But 9 times out of 10, people will also, talk about, other unusual activity that's going on in their area. Like you said, like, Bigfoot activity or, chupacabra, not as much. Oh, yeah. Big cats, some of the hotspot areas, especially, here in Indiana and, over into southern Illinois, a lot of big cat activity where, naturalists say, "Oh, there's no big cats around here," yet people are seeing them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. Well, you've done a lot of shows and written a lot of articles, a lot of books. You certainly, cooperate with Timothy Beckley on the Conspiracy Journal, and on and on and on. And as you research world history and events and different things, have you come to the conclusion, or have you been convinced that there is a spiritual world?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, I suppose it all depends what your definition of a spiritual world is. I mean, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot more, in heaven and earth that are dreamt about in our philosophy, Daniel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's just that if I tell you something, I'd be really disappointed if I found out that, like, a lot of these skeptics and debunkers, say that it's just the world is just what you see it and nothing more. I mean, from my experiences and from the experiences of other people that I have talked to, we're probably seeing less than 1% of what's actually going on, in our reality.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that concept. So, what do you think happens to you when you die?
Oh, I think we continue on. I think that our brains are not the producer of our consciousness. I think our brains are the receiver, and that there is another larger part of us, someplace else that reaches down for whatever reason, into this reality, possibly for the experience or what have you. I mean, I've had some very good discussions with people who were just getting ready to pass on, or who passed on briefly and then came back, and I'm convinced that that there is more to our life than just just our material existence.
Does that in any way compel you to be, say, a decent, honest person, knowing that you may have to answer, say, when you pass on? Has it had any effect, knowing that there is maybe what we construe as an afterlife? Has it changed the way you behave on this earth, or you feel like you just would have done it with or been who you are with or without that information?
Well, I mean, I don't think that I would have been, like a bad person naturally. I'm just not that way. I always have, because I was always taught that we're here on this planet to help others. To not all the time just to be thinking about ourselves, about just constantly trying to make our own desires real. That we need to follow what Jesus said, and and help your fellow man. And but I don't know if my convictions that there is more to this reality after we pass on would make that much of a difference to me, because I guess I've always been like that. Yeah, does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that properly.
Well, I mean, it is what it is to you. So when you take the concept of love, is that an organic reaction from sensory perceptions, or is it something larger, sort of an eternal type of gifting, or something that from outside of us that compels us to have that is not say, and I guess it may even go to feelings in general. I mean, are those organically evolved? Or are they something else, something that's been impregnated within us that allows us to, and it gets to us as a feeling, but it's really something larger than that.
Yeah, kind of like a little from column A, a little from column B, because we do have, our chemical emotions, the desire to procreate and all that. But there is also, I think, that universal feeing of love that permeates all of us. And I mean, and we know, the difference. The difference between just that when you see somebody good looking and you're like, oh yeah, I love them, and then that more spiritual just that overall feeling of love. And you talk to people who have had near-death experiences, and that's one of the main things that they always talk about is that when they first leave their body, they're just overwhelmed almost by this feeling of like universal love. They see this light, which they say could be Jesus, could be God, what have you, and it's just that they said that the love that emanates all around and through them is just amazing. They said there's just no way to describe it once they come back. So yeah, I mean, I think it's like a universal constant. You have like gravity and energy, and I think love also is a part of the equation.
Mm-hmm. But then looking at it from that perspective, then love cannot be an evolutionary process.
Well, again, I said, you have that, that those chemical reactions, that desire to procreate. But I mean, if we didn't, if we didn't have that feeling of love beyond that, I doubt if we'd be able to exist on the material world in a very efficient way. We'd almost just be like, almost just like robots, or amoebas or something like that, just going about and doing our business and, and getting on with life. And I think that's just, that's one of the things, in this material world is that we get these we get these feelings, we get these impressions from that other reality, the real the real reality that exists, around us. That it's difficult to explain, but I mean there's a difference, I think.
Well, Tim, what part of the evolutionary process do you think that love entered into our existence?
Well, I don't know. It's that's hard to say. It's I always believe that God created this universe in a way that that worked. And we see it all around us. I mean, I don't think that God just waved his hand and things just magically appeared. I think that there was this concept that. Of scientific principles that we see that, and that's how the universe does work. I'm terrible at trying to explain this, but God works in a universe. God made this universe to work in this specific way because this is the way that works the best. That's the only way that I can explain it.
So then love must have had always existed.
Oh yes, I think so, and always will exist. I mean, that could very well. I mean, you look at the Bible and and other religious texts. That's almost. I can't remember who it was now. One of these, like Eastern, religions. I mean, that's what the Big Bang was. The Big Bang was like almost like this cosmic orgasm, so to speak, of love. That created us all.
Wow, never heard it put like that. So then, so then, where does hate come from?
Well, I think that. I think that hate is really a product of the material world.
That could come from the evolutionary process, because if you was a monkey, you probably hated being in the tree, and when you jumped out, you still hating on people.
You jump out and you get eaten by that saber-toothed tiger, and then the survivors hate that saber-toothed tiger.
Exactly. Okay, so
as time went by, religious, the priests and stuff, they couldn't conceive. Why would God, this all-loving God, why would these horrible things happen? Why did the saber-toothed tiger eat these people? Why did the earthquake destroy the village? Well, there must be a devil. And so, I mean, I think this whole idea of, like a personification of the devil was just an attempt to, because they can't conceive, how, an all-knowing and all-loving God, would let these horrible things happen, So, but, and again, we're trying to explain this stuff on human terms. I mean, we just see just this little teeny tiny spectrum of everything that's going on around us. It's like, it's like our earliest ancestors throwing rocks at the moon, type of thing. We can't, it's the unknowable. It's the unexplainable. So we just try to come up with concepts as best to our ability.
Well, we probably do agree there has to be an all-loving God that has allowed me and you to have a conversation tonight.
That's right. I agree.
All right, Tim Schwartz, we're at the end of the broadcast. Anything you'd like to say about your website, your books, or anything else? You go right ahead.
Well, I just want to thank you very much for letting me be on your show tonight. And if anybody is interested in reading my books, just go to Amazon.com and just type my name in, and you'll find all kinds of interesting stuff. My website is conspiracyjournal.com. I put out a free email newsletter every week. It's an aggregate of all the week's interesting, weird stories. I've got stringers all over the world that send me this stuff, and then I have to go and whittle it down to about 6 or 7 stories every week. Mm-hmm. You can subscribe to that for free. It's there's a place at my website that you can subscribe to it. No, we don't spam you. We don't sell your names to anybody else. And you can also listen to Tim Beckley and myself on Exploring the Bizarre on another network, Daniel. I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Sure you are. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Thursday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern.
Right on. Tim, you've been on a lot of programs. How's being on the Edge compare?
Oh, I love being on the Edge, Daniel. I mean, it's what's it been like 2-3 years now since I was on the last time.
Yeah.
You need to have me back on more often.
No doubt about it. And we'll schedule you in the future there, Tim.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Good evening.
Okay. Take care.
All right, everybody. That was Tim Schwartz talking about the hollow earth and what the heck it is down in there. Is it the Nazis? Is it the aliens? Is it Obama and his hordes that are trying to escape the Trump executive orders? You never know. Or is it Elizabeth Warren? All right, listen now. We're going to have a great show next week as well. So be sure to stop by this program and look for the latest updates of our guest list, which appears where is that? Right below the player? Right above. I don't even know where we put it anymore. We have the guest list below the player, and that's where we updated just above the previous week's guest. This show will begin to replay in our main player here shortly after the show. We'll extract the high definition video and we'll put it up in our YouTube channel, podcast this program, and put it into our TuneIn Radio playlist. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Daniel Ott for The Edge. Bye-bye.